Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with a warm-up story from the laundry room. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Mess with my laundry? Have fun finding your clothes. So I'm a freshman at a university known for snobbish and selfie kids. I deal with spoiled rich kids every day, and I'm usually pretty patient. You have to be to make it here. Today I decided to do my laundry as the laundry room is rarely full on weekdays. There are 6 washers and 6 dryers for over 200 kids in my dorm, so the university created an app that tells you which washers and dryers are free and the remaining time on those that are in use. Everything went smoothly until I had to dry my clothes. There were 3 dryers available and I needed all 3. I normally would have felt bad about using half the dryers, but I noticed the other 3 would be done in 5 minutes. I separated my clothes and set each dryer, then went to the basement lounge to study. About 30 minutes later, I checked the app to find that one of the dryers I was using was 10 minutes into a new cycle. Normally, I shrugged this off because the app can be really buggy, but the other 2 loads were unchanged. I decided to investigate and found some a-hole's dress shirts in the dryer and my wet clothes scattered on a nearby table. I was far from happy with this, so I removed the a-hole's perfectly dry shirts and placed my own clothes back in the dryer. I then took these fine dry shirts and threw them into the nearest washer and started a new cycle. I waited until it filled up and opened the door, stopping the cycle and admiring my work. A wet mess of clothes of various colors. I then grabbed a piece of paper left in the laundry room and crowned my masterpiece with a F.U. Another dryer freed up, so I moved my clothes to it, and now I'm waiting in the laundry room for him to return and find my revenge, only for me to play dumb and act innocent. And our second story. I got demoted because I talked too fast. This was a couple years ago, 2014. I was in college working for a pretty well-known retail clothing store, let's call it Perpetually 21, P21. I started as a floor associate, but pretty quickly moved up to a cash wrap associate and eventually ended up being a cash wrap lead. This means you're in charge of the register area counting money, approving discounts, and line deletes. A line delete is when one of your cashiers accidentally scans an item twice or scans in the wrong one, and you or a manager have to be called over to input a code to remove them. And you must do this every time for each line. It got annoying at times, especially with new hires, but it was my job, so I dealt with it. Anyways, P21 is a corporate-run company, so every couple months a district manager, DM, would come in and evaluate the store. Our DM took her job way too seriously and tended to forget that the majority of her employees were high school/college-age kids just trying to make money. She would also pull a floor associate to be her personal shopper when she would come visit, which all of us dreaded. After one of her shopping sprees, she came up to the register, and I was the one checking her out. We exchanged pleasantries, had normal conversation, and she left with her purchases. I didn't think much of it until later on during my shift when my associate manager, AM, pulled me aside and this conversation happened. AM: "Hey OP, DM wants me to pull off cash wrap. I'm sorry." Me: "What? Why?" AM: "She said you talked too fast during your checkout and she felt rushed." Me: "Oh, well, okay then, whatever. So do you want me to go to the floor then?" AM: "No, we're short on cashier, so I'll need you up front, but I have to take down your clearance code." So I'm pretty bummed. It's not like I was getting more pay at being in one position or the other. Trying to get a raise there was trash. We start to get a little busy, and this particular P21 is massive. The building used to be a department store, so to communicate with other employees in other sections of the store, we use walkie-talkies. So I call up some extra help over the walkie, and they send over 2 new hires, NH1 and 2. A couple hours into my shift, this happens. NH1: "Hey OP, I made a mistake. Can you delete my line?" Me: "Actually, I can't. DM took away my clearance this morning, so my code won't work. You'll have to call AM." So they call over AM, but for those of you who work in retail know that managers never come immediately when called. NH1 is just staring apologetically at the customer because all we can do is wait. 10 minutes pass. NH2: OP, I made a mistake. Can you delete this line?" Me: "Nope, you gotta call over AM again, sorry." We now have 2 out of 3 registers at a standstill and a line forming. I have NH1 take over my register and go look for AM. Turns out that AM was in a meeting with DM in the office and they had their walkies off. Knock, knock. Me. Hi, sorry to bother you, but we need a line delete at the register. DM, looking annoyed that I interrupted their meeting. Why can't you do it? Do I have to do everything? AM. You had me take away their codes this morning. Phone rings. AM jumps to answer it to avoid awkwardness. DM. Oh, right. Well, I'll go deal with that real quick and come back. So we walk back to the registers and there's now a large line. One of the new hires, bless their poor soul, got a customer who was making a return, which, yes, you need special clearance to approve. Customers are furious. One comes up to me and asks to speak to a manager, and I kindly direct her to my DM. I'm trying to suppress a smile as she's getting chewed out by this lady for insufficiency and long wait times, and that she'll be hearing about this on Yelp, which DMs hate because the regional managers can hear about it too. After the rush, I clock out and go to buy some stuff I had on hold, which I deliberately waited to do till my DM had already left the registers, just so they could call her back over the walkie-talkie to approve my employee purchase. The look of pure disdain for me when she had to walk back made it totally worth it. All this could have been avoided if she didn't demote me just because she felt rushed during our transaction, which is usually what customers want. I quit a couple months later. The whole store got shut down a year later too because of a water pipe busted and half the store flooded. So glad I don't work in retail anymore. Whew. I never really understood the whole take your sweet time coming over to help your employees out thing. I mean, I get that depending on the job, being a manager can get really stressful, but what's the point in putting an employee in that position? And our third story. That left a bad taste in his mouth. This story is what happened to my husband, but I know the people involved very well as I used to work in the same warehouse. This happened in 2018. Until April this year, my husband, let's call him Mike, worked in a warehouse for a big international furniture company in southern Germany. He liked the work, even if it was hard labor carrying 150 kilograms, 330 pounds for the Americans, pieces of furniture around. Because of this, the staff turnover was pretty high. One of his colleagues, we'll call him Steve, started at the same time as my husband. They weren't friends as Mike didn't like him, but he respected him as a hard worker. Due to customers coming in all the time, the warehouse staff didn't have required breaks. They just took their lunch break when it was possible. Some used the break room with a basic kitchen, and some went out to eat, go to the supermarket on the other side of the road, or did errands in the 60 minutes they had. But either way, you had to clock out and back in. This will be relevant later. Soon they realized that brought-in lunches went missing from the fridge in the break room, as did sweets they brought in to share, and also drinks. Since it was rare that two of the workers took their break at the same time, they weren't sure who stole them. They also weren't allowed to bring up a camera, so Mike and the warehouse manager decided to take matters into their own hands. Once in a while, when it was slow, they decided to order food, mostly pizza, sometimes burgers, and my husband, me too, loves hot, spicy food. I'm actually pretty sure that there's no blood in him, that he has hot sauce flowing around. Anyway, we have a nice assortment of powders and sauces ranging from a little tickling to we'll turn your butthole into a Johnny Cash song. Hubs, of course, had some of the sauces at work. You all know where this is headed, right? When the thefts got more and more regular, they decided to order pizza. Just Mike and the manager, and the others didn't want to or had something else. The pies got delivered and smelled delicious. Miraculously, both my husband and his manager were able to take their lunch at the same time and enjoyed their pizza but didn't finish it. Mike took out one of his sauces with a scorching 2 million Scoville. For those not familiar, regular Tabasco has 2,500 to 5,000 Scoville, and distributed a generous amount on the leftovers, which blended in great with the red tomato sauce. Then they left to have a smoke and continue working. They hadn't had a chance to clock in again when Steve emerged from the break room running for the bathroom, head in a very nice shade of red, gagging. When he came back out a few minutes later, he was white as a sheet and left without word to get something to drink from the supermarket. Just then, the local store's manager, boss of the warehouse manager, happened to drop by. He noticed Steve was absent and didn't clock out. A big no-no. What nobody knew, Steve had already had 2 write-ups for being absent without clocking out. If you get 3 write-ups for the very same reason, you can be terminated without notice. When Steve returned, clutching 3 packs of milk closely to his chest, The third write-up and the termination was already printed and ready to be signed. Steve left immediately. He now works in another warehouse where a good friend of mine is employed too. None of their food has gone missing yet. Revenge is a dish best served hot and spicy. And our next story. My granddad's not really someone you should mess with. My granddad told me this story a few months back. He used to own a trailer loaning business in the mid to late 90s. Some guy returned a trailer from my granddad, and after he left, Granddad realized he'd swapped out the trailer's brand new tires for 4 older ones, obviously in much worse condition. So being the kind of guy my granddad is, he drives to the guy's house and demands his tires back. The guy refuses, so my granddad gives him the choice of either giving the tires back or calling the police. The guy says he can't give the tires back because he doesn't have a jack on him, but my granddad knew he'd make an excuse like that and had taken one with him. Granddad starts taking the tires off the guy's car, then asks, "So, do I get my old tires back then?" Granddad just says, "Nah," leaves the guy's car in his own driveway with no tires, and takes his own tires back and keeps the guy's old ones too. Actually, your grandpa sounds like a pretty nice guy since he didn't have the guy arrested for theft. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.